Hi again then guys, and welcome to episode 37 of Weekend Warriors, the review series for GranTurismo sports cars, be it small, lightweight, affordable cars like the Mazda MX-5 or that kind of thing, or all the way up to larger, maybe 2+2 seater, luxury coupes, or just bigger sports coupes in general. And this particular vehicle definitely falls into those latter categories. It is a 4-seater. It's a much bigger sports coupe, significantly bigger than many of the other cars in this series, and it is very much so a luxury top tier coupe. You're looking at around 100 grand for this car when it was new in real life. Prices have really dropped for this particular vehicle now, not necessarily the CL600 in particular, but the CL500 for instance. You can pick them up for £2,000 or £3,000 over here in the UK, which is insane considering how much power and luxury you get for such a dirt cheap price, because of course you have to remortgage your house if anything goes wrong with it. Now this car in particular is the more upmarket version, and one of the things that I like about the 600 models in the Mercedes range, be it the CL600, the SL600, etc., is that they offer very similar performance to the 65 AMG versions, but in a more understated package. For instance, if you compare the SL600 to the SL65, it has very similar performance, not quite as much, but very similar. But nobody expects it to, because the SL65 is known for being extremely powerful and extremely fast, whereas with the SL600, people don't really take that much notice of it, so it can kind of be a sleeper car. Now this car doesn't have an AMG full-on equivalent on the games, such as the CL65 or the CL55 even, but we do have the 600, which is pretty close. And personally, I'm a big fan of this car. This is one of my more liked choices of cruiser online. I drive it in the spec that you can see here with the stanced look, which I know isn't to everyone's taste, but there are certain cars which I just like that look on. And to me, there's something kind of ironic about having a big luxury Mercedes with a slammed ride height and stanced drift wheels. That just looks cool to me. Now, what do you get from a vehicle like this? Because in the world of sports cars, prices, performance, power, everything varies wildly from car to car. Some are fantastic, some maybe aren't bad, but they could be too expensive in comparison to how good they are. This is an expensive car, and all of the Mercedes models of the higher performance range on GranTurismo are pretty expensive. You're talking six-figure numbers, and this is no exception. It's just under 180,000 credits, which is a lot of cash for a vehicle which isn't even a premium car. Now, of course, there are more expensive cars that aren't premium, but most of them tend to stand out more than this car. You don't see people using the CL600. I don't think I've ever seen anyone else apart from myself use this car online. I'm sure that doubtless people have. I've just personally never seen it. So the question is, for those who perhaps haven't bought this vehicle, which is understandable, what can you expect if you do decide to try it out? Well, the engine is a naturally aspirated 5.8 litre, and that engine puts out some good numbers. 661 horsepower, 605 foot-pounds of torque. And even though it is a big heavy car, because for those who are unfamiliar, the CL range essentially acts as the two-door version of the Mercedes S-Class. And the S-Class, of course, is their top-of-the-line luxury limo. This is the more sporty version of that same vehicle, essentially. Now, the roots of the CL are even closer to that. They really do just look like two-door versions of the S-Class. Over the years, that's changed a little more, and it's become more of its own thing. But to some degree, you can still see that influence there. It's very much the big luxury Mercedes coupe, more so even than the SL. Now, this car isn't really designed for cornering. It's designed to be the kind of vehicle that you can blast down the autobahn in and just have effortless power and total luxury. I love vehicles like that, but that's not necessarily conducive for track use. And even with the full weight loss package, you're looking at 1,451 kilos, which is still quite a bit. That does mean that it's one of the heavier cars of this series. So the question is, can it overcome that? to give you great performance. Not necessarily just in a straight line, where you'd probably expect great performance, but around corners. Well, to some degree, I would actually say that yes, this car is better than you may expect it to be. Now, it is a high-performance Mercedes, and they put a lot of effort and development into their performance cars, so it's not surprising that it would be good in a straight line. Now, that being said, this is no way near as quick as the SL models. Certainly no way near as quick as the SL55, 600 or 65. The top speed is more comparable to something like a CLK55. So around 240, 250 miles per hour, more of course with NOS and slipstream, so perhaps not quite as quick as you might hope, but at the same time, considering how much less power it has than those other models like the SL65, that's not too bad. 400 horsepower less is a lot. And the extra weight, the larger aerodynamic signature that the car has, all have a bearing as well. Now, the fully tuned PP, I would say, is very reasonable on this car. It's only 560, and for such a powerful car, that's pretty good. Now, of course, that is partially due to the weight, and you are carrying a lot of weight around. Around corners, though, I would say that this car handles that weight remarkably well. Better, in fact, in that regard than many other big heavy cars like the Chrysler 300C or the Land Rover Range Stormer, where you can feel that weight and they tend to be a little bit wallowy around corners, a bit boatish, whereas this car, I would say, isn't as much in that regard. You can feel the weight, but not necessarily in a bad way. Overall, to put it into the simplest of terms, this is a car which you should only buy if you already think you're going to like it. Because it's not really a surprising car in any particular way. It gives you decent performance, decent handling, and it's fun to drive. But if you're looking purely for speed and value, in other words, the fastest car for the lowest price, then obviously it's not going to be the car for you, because there are simply quicker cars out there. But overall, that's it for this particular pick. I'll see you guys next time, and as always, thanks for watching.